So I'd like to follow up on my Wonder Woman negatives, anti-feminism aspects of the film, rant, review, whatever you want to call it, with more on the origins of the film, the Richard Donner aspects of the film, the stuff with the Amazons, the stuff with even more Richard Donner stuff with the film, with the Greek mythology stuff, and more on the propaganda-ish roles, and even, I don't want to spoil that, but I'll get to it later. So without further ado, more on the Wonder Woman 2017 film and its negatives. The 1978 Superman film was not only a groundbreaking film in superhero cinema, but cinema itself. Its effects, its story, its darkness, its costume design, its casting, I can go on. Christopher Nolan took homage to it in Batman Begins, and Superman Returns was somewhat a sequel to it, done by Bryan Singer, with some of the similar themes and imagery. Patty Jenkins mentioned on Entertainment Weekly XM Radio before it was released that she would take influence from Superman 78. So, good start for Wonder Woman. Good place to take homage. And we shall see where all those homages worked into the film. Its influence was recognized and taken for the better. Like Clark Kent in 1978, Superman, Diana rejects her call in the hero's journey, leaving her hometown, island, country, or whatever, to pursue a fight that can save 20 million lives outside her home. The film uses Greek mythology to discuss a story like that of King James's Bible. Zeus is the Western Christian god with connection to the Old Testament in this case. There's somewhat a feminist interpretation of this, with the son Ares somewhat being Lucifer. There's a lot of references to fire, especially with the end sequence. Ares was envious, according to the narrative, by the narrator. It also seems a bit like Cain and Abel's story with Diana and the Amazons fighting with Ares, or whoever it was. All the gods fighting amongst each other even. There's a bit of a story of Adam and Eve with how the Amazons were created to make men love, although I'm sure the LGBTQT crowd would disagree. And personally, when I was watching the film, I thought it was very odd and boring that the Amazons on the Mascara don't pursue homosexual relationships. Because they really, it's not a pervert thing, it's not a, everyone has to be sexual thing, it's just that they really don't have much to do, and there's so many women on there, like, you figured something would happen, and it doesn't seem natural. I get into how they could have avoided that situation, but how they wrote Diana especially was very odd. I heard the Amazons, and Diana's character, in my opinion. Zeus kills gods, much like in the Old Testament, with God killing humans and stuff. The film also takes a bit of a darker and somewhat propagandistisch approach as an appeal to the U.S. militaristic right-wing, oddly enough. Go figures, since with a title like Wonder Woman, you figured they wouldn't go that direction. Or, like, you figured it'd be an anti-feminist. You don't think it'd be an anti-feminist film, it'd be a pro-feminist film. But of course, there's multiple definitions for feminism. The Amazons are isolationists, like the U.S. fearing invasion. However, in contrast to the U.S., they don't expand to prevent their home world from being destroyed. The Amazons are also militaristic. All they do is train. If you don't find that necessarily propaganda-ish, you can at least find it a bit boring. They try to do a little bit with it with Gal Gadot and reading some Greek literature, but it seemed a little rushed, and I felt like if they spent another year on the film, it would have been a little bit more fleshed out. Although 5 years would have been a lot better, although they can't do it in that time span. Gal Gadot at least can be used for laughs, and that's what really makes up her personality, her curiosity and stuff. She doesn't get much to do, though, and that really hurts the film. This is in contrast to Bryce Dallas' corporate character, which is equally as boring and very different in Jurassic World. And she has, like, the Jurassic World character is even more dull. And she's not a fighter, she doesn't really do anything. She's very scheduley, she's very campily written, very boringly written, and very stiff. As much as the female Dr. Poison is a villain, at least she's a scientist. And although it's hinted that Ares gave her the idea to create the weapon, at least it's assumed she went through university or something to get her abilities. All Diana does is fight. She was given Thorish brute strength for a god. So, all this stuff is like genetic or something. Or, it's even somewhat Nazi-ish. Like, she didn't really... She trained, of course, and she did earn it. But, since she's invincible, it's hard for her to learn lessons. Like, she can't... And, I mean, that's sort of the cool thing about, like, Superman and stuff. Like, they don't have fear. They're sort of invincible, but she has to learn lessons. I didn't feel like she learned a lesson in the film, like, with Superman 78, where Superman feels a horrible loss and then she learns something from it. I felt like some people had arguments with the reversing the rotation of the Earth thing. I felt this was equally as bad, but more of a storyline perspective. Like Thor, Diana makes a lot of mistakes a smart person wouldn't make, and gets treated like a hero. Like, they're trained their strength, body, athleticism in the mascara, but they don't train in military intelligence, how to fight, etc., how to lead, how to do tactics. Throughout the film, Diana is a terrible spy, and it hurts her as a character. She's played off as dumb. In contrast to what I said, at least she did get through the fight in which she goes through the trenches and saves a bunch of lives. Although she does get them killed later on by not focusing on the mustard gas, and then the mustard gas launches, and then the village gets killed, and then she blames Steve Trevor, despite the fact that it was her who didn't go after the mustard gas and then insisted on going after Ares. This brings me to Red Letter Media's statement on how Wonder Woman shouldn't be considered a role model. Prior to that, I had made this whole rant about the Mummy review and say that they had not done research and possibly misinterpreted the data as to whether execs had marketed to China or foreign markets or not. The term of China, the term of the foreign markets were debatable, etc. So you might think that I'm completely against Red Letter Media. However, in contrast, let me get to that in a moment. In their Wonder Woman video, they had said that Wonder Woman should be considered a role model. Actually posted a clip of Warner Brothers or some media junket where Wonder Woman went around and was marketed as a role model. So it wasn't like they were making it up. They also listed several jobs where women could be considered role models, including Wonder Woman director Patty Jenkins' job. Patty Jenkins and her job. Patty Jenkins did a phenomenal job. I think Monster was a much better film, but Patty Jenkins did a good job. It was a very beautiful film. There's a lot of beautiful colors, locations, and the color corrections were different in different scenes, yet it felt natural. That is very noteworthy. Some of the shot selections, the good use of slow motion, the production design, the use of the armor, the costume design, etc. In contrast to Red Letter Media's Mummy review, I had to agree this time. Diana isn't a good role model. She isn't smart, she isn't street smart, she reads a couple of Greek books, but otherwise only shows training and physical training, is sexist, and is grown up by women to be sexist. What more I have to say about this? She's really not likable. She's not a good role model. Like, she isn't a good leader. I liked her better in Batman vs. Superman, actually, and that, even the bad version of the film was, the awful version of the film even, the zero-star version of the film, but actually, I felt Diana was a lot better. This, she was, like, there's not many good characteristics for her. She may worry about the lives of 20 million, but failed to do so, almost, by basically woman-splaining, even. I'm not saying Steve Trevor was right because he was a man. However, his plan was to do with a weapon that was shipped all over the world and destroying it seemed more aware, logical, and present than Diana's plan to just assassinate someone in the belief, as Steve Trevor mentioned, that the Cold War would stop, the World War I would stop by defeating a god of war that she hasn't seen. Even the Amazons haven't seen it, although that wasn't mentioned in front of Diana. Even if Antiope and Hippolyta did argue prior to the existence of the god of war. And then after, she kills her first and only man for the first time ever, and this doesn't stop the war or stop the mustard gas from being dispensed, and then she blames Trevor, even though he was the one who was right the whole time. The guy being right the whole time, that makes Wonder Woman a good role model. That makes the film a good feminist film. I don't think so. He was also the one who gave her the idea that men may choose to be flawed, and then she uses that against him. Also, that's very lazy and idealistic and dystopian writing. Like, the Amazons are flawed too. Like, it's not just men, it's not just Amazons, it's both are flawed. Also, there is the fact that Ares and Diana are both created by Zeus. Ares isn't as dumb, as smart, manipulative, and uses his brain. Diana was created by Zeus and doesn't use any of those qualities. That seems messed up. I don't see how that can be from this film, and you can make it like that. There's probably multiple other references and examples of this, and I'm curious what you're thinking about as to how Wonder Woman was in a feminist film, by being propagandized as one. I'm trying to figure out a film where I'm not saying they're awful. Every woman actor or character is awful this year, but I'm trying to figure out one that was just 5-star. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I just can't think of one off the top of my head at the moment. Maybe the Belko Experiment, where she's fighting for her life and then save people. I have to get back to you on that. So that's my review on the negatives of Wonder Woman 2017. Hope you enjoyed.